Joining us now, Morgan Griffith. He voted for the tax cut. He's voting for jobs. He's not one of the pit of miserables in the Democratic Party. He cheered the economic good news. He didn't sit on his hands. He didn't sit on a gerbil like Cory Booker. It's unbelievable. I mean, how do you cheer? Just think about this, ladies and gentlemen. Do you really want to put this party back in control of your economic future when every time somebody gets a job, they're depressed? Whenever somebody gets a bonus, they call it crumbs. Whenever somebody gets a new job, they say, that's not good enough, takes his job and shove it. I mean, any part of good news, they mock. Are these the people you want to put back in charge of your economic future? I don't know. I don't think so. Joining us now to sort all this out and the government shutdown, Congressman, 9th District, Republican, Virginia, that's the Southwest area, very red, Trump country, Morgan Griffith. Congressman, great to have you here in the John Fredericks Radio Network.
Good to be with you.
Stock stabilizing. Am I off base here? On Monday, I couldn't believe it. I thought the State of the Union took the cake when the president is outlining all these great economic things happening for average people, like a $3,000 tax cut, things of that nature, jobs, and whatever. Democrats sitting on their hands, all glum, sucking on lemons. But then Monday, did you ever see anything like this in your life? Democrats and the legacy media cheering average Americans losing value in their retirement, because that's really what happens when the stock market goes down by that much. Cheering misery. Have you ever seen this?
Well, no, and you know, look, they keep having a hard time understanding that when you make regulations less, when you let people have their money, when you don't have confiscatory taxes, the economy is going to do well, and the American people are going to like that. So they keep thinking, okay, this has got to stop. Something's wrong here. The government isn't controlling everything. And so when they see a sign that, you know, the stock market has gone up, and all of a sudden it has a correction, they see that as everything's going to go back to the way it was, and we're going to be vindicated that, you know, only the government can do these things. And, of course, yesterday showed that the correction corrected itself a little bit. And, you know, look, it's going to go up and down some. The excitement over the tax cut bill and the Jobs Act was so great that the market may have gone a little too far. It's correcting itself. But I actually had a member of Congress, and I don't follow the stock market closely, came up to me yesterday and said, do you know the rules? He said, I can't believe what's going on the stock market right now. And I don't own any publicly traded shares of stock, so I didn't know the rules, and I sent him off to somebody else who would. But he said, GE is currently trading below its asset value. He said, it may not be worth as much as some people think, but I think we could sell its assets if we had to and still get the money out of it. And he was just like, oh, my gosh, you know, because it had gone too far.
Right.
So that's what by the end of the day, of course, it had gone up 500 points, and that's a lot of other people must have realized, wait a minute, it's gone too far down.
Right.
But it's going to stabilize out, and over time, when you look at it, you know, 6 months from now, it will be higher than it was on January 1st. And that's what helps build wealth. And any day of large gains, you have to be a little cautious. Any day of large losses, you have to realize that that's not going to stand in the current environment that we have, that the American economy is solid. And so not only was it a shame that they cheered that people were losing money, but it showed a total lack of understanding of how the economy works.
Well, accusing the Democrats for knowing how a capitalist economy works, that would be a stretch right there. Congressman Morgan Griffith. So the Senate saying, you sent us a bill to keep the government open, but we're not interested. Instead, what you're going to get back, it looks like, is a deal that Leader McConnell made with Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, calling for an $80 billion increase in defense spending in this fiscal year coming up, but with a complementary $63 billion increase in spending in domestic spending. That goes to the House. It's going to get a lot of Democratic votes, and as Tom Garrett just said, it's going to get votes of members, Republicans in Florida and Texas that wanted disaster relief, and they'll basically go with this. So is that what's going to end up happening?
Well, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, clearly something's going on. They may throw in more things that ultimately get the Democrats in the House on board for that. There's also the possibility, however, that Nancy Pelosi is so out there that she will insist that that the Democrats don't vote for it unless it's got DACA. And if that happens, then the Senate deal may not have the votes to pass. And so Senator McConnell and Leader Ryan have to figure that one out, because it's a real problem for them, because there are a lot of folks. Now, I have to see it before I make a final decision, see what they send over, but there's a lot of folks on the conservative side in the House who are not going to accept, huge new increases in the deficit that we already have.
Right. Well, I know Walter Jones is going to vote no on it. If it comes back, I can guarantee you that, among other deficit hawks in the Republican House. But the House yesterday passed a stopgap bill to avoid the shutdown and fund the government through March 23rd. Did you find that palatable?
I did. The problem is they throw a lot of stuff in there. It was
right.
500 and some pages. It took me, didn't come out till 10:30 last night, so I got finished reading the bill about 5 minutes before the vote. But and in that 500 pages, there was some stuff I liked and some stuff I didn't like. But this is no way to run the show, and the Senate needs to change its rules so that we can actually pass the appropriations bills. The House passed all 12 last year. Senate didn't even take one up for debate.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Now they're not going to take your bill, we understand it. They're just going to kick back this other bill, which is going to cause another big increase in the debt. The president yesterday calling for a military parade, much like they have in Russia on Red Day and things of that nature, like Bastille Day in France, where you march through Washington with your tanks and your missiles and your troops. What do you make of that?
Well, I've never been a big fan of those parades, but I suspect that it would help D.C. on tourism, because a lot of folks would like to come see, what 10-year-old boy doesn't like seeing a bunch of tanks running down the road? I think it would be exciting in that sense and help tourism. The question is, how much does it cost us to put it on? I don't know the answer to that. It's not my thing. We've never needed that. Our policy has always been to make sure everybody knew we had the big stick, but we don't have to do a parade to do that.
Right.
And to, exercise our military might around the world when necessary. But I don't know that we need a big show, but I don't know that it's a bad thing either.
Walk softly, carry a big stick, but kind of hide it behind your back has always been the way we've done. I mean, you look on TV reels and you look at these huge military hardware parades that they've had in Russia. And, of course, we just saw the recent ones in North Korea. It just seems – I don't think we've ever had one of those, so it seems a little odd. They've had them in Japan, certainly before the Second World War, and we all know that the Third Reich had many of those back in the day. So, maybe it's good for tourism. It's a lot of money. It's something we've never done. It would certainly be interesting. I'm reserving judgment on it. I haven't really thought it through like you. Let's get to the FISA court and the Democratic memo. Have you seen it, and do you care?
I have seen it. It's 10 pages of trying to explain why the 4 pages wasn't really important, and I was not persuaded. I think that it's going to be difficult to declassify big chunks of it. It may have been a trap set by the Democrats that they put so much stuff in there that it makes it hard for the president to declassify a lot of it. But the bottom line is it's much ado about nothing in their report. I'm happy to let the American people see it. I thought Tom Garrett's idea of releasing the affidavit was a good one. It's interesting. The committee's been trying to get a hold of the actual transcript of what was said, and they've been denied that. The House committee's been denied that. And talk about Nancy Pelosi being out of touch. Yesterday, she stood on the floor and they were doing this resolution. We're trying to do a resolution about, Devin Nunes did it all wrong. And they basically made it sound like that the administrative branch of government, that'd be the president, and the United States Congress has to take second seat to the FBI. Now, look, we got a lot of great FBI agents out there, and this memo shows there was a few rogue individuals, not the whole agency.
Mm-hmm.
But the bottom line is, we're the United States Congress. We don't take a second seat to any agency. They answer to us.
I mean,
and
you're
that's
the
what this
oversight.
is all about.
You're
they
the
don't want to
oversight
answer to us, and we're going to keep going, whether it's Bob Goodlatte and the Judiciary Committee, which is now going after some stuff, whether it's the Intel Committee. We're going to get the answers. We want to know exactly what kind of collusion was going on between the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the Democrat National Committee, where they got sources from Russia coming up with something that was total poppycock.
And when they vetted it through intel, right, or legitimate intel, they were told it was nonsense. They were told there was no corroboration. Yet they presented to the judge. But I'm glad what you just said, Congressman, because, and I hope we can get this platform for what you're saying out on a national scope, because you're the oversight. I mean, you're elected by the people. You have oversight over all of these agencies, whether it's the Justice Department, the FBI, or Housing and Urban Development. I mean, Congress has an oversight over every government agency. That's the way the Constitution is set up. We don't have bureaucracy that basically makes decisions on its own, absent of oversight from our constitutionally elected members of a republic, right? It's crazy.
That is correct.
And so, I mean, you look at what Pelosi said yesterday, and it's as if, Congress shouldn't meddle in what the Justice Department does or what the FBI does. Well, they're under the jurisdiction of the House of Representatives and Congress, which is the way the Founding Fathers set it up. Am I right?
You are right. Now, we shouldn't meddle in an ongoing, criminal investigation of some sort. But when there's clear evidence that the FBI did not tell the whole truth, and again, not the agency as a whole, but a few rogue individuals set it up and did not tell the whole truth to a judge, I'm concerned about that, and that's our job to oversee it, and we're supposed to investigate.
Let me ask you this. So I had Tom Garrett on just before you, your friend, your colleague, 5th District, Virginia. And Garrett said that we should release the affidavit. He said, so we're starting hashtag release the affidavit. And he said the affidavit that was submitted supporting the FISA warrant application. He says if that affidavit to the judge is released, then it's all going to be there, right? We're either going to see if this dossier was a big part of it, if the judge was misled and lied to or not. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't have a problem. I have not seen the affidavit because it has not been released to the members of Congress, other than perhaps the intel. I think maybe only 4 people have seen it in the House, and so I don't have a problem in theory with releasing it. But obviously, you have to make sure there's not something in there that would be damaging. Mm-hmm. But I have no problem with releasing it, and the folks who have looked at it indicate that the dossier led, that it was the first thing in the affidavit, mm-hmm. and that, you don't normally lead with something that you don't consider important.
And then putting a media report in by the New York Times, which was leaked to the New York Times in order to put it in for the affidavit, that's another one that's a head-scratcher. Look, something was going on here that didn't make any sense. I've only got a minute. Let me just ask you something. Politics. A month ago, I would have bet Democrats are going to take over the House. You guys are done. I mean, everything points to it. Historical trend, everybody leaving in swing districts. But now, with the economy booming and with that State of the Union speech, I think maybe the Republicans have turned the corner. In less than a minute, do you guys have a shot at keeping the House, really, in 18?
Yes, we do. And it's going to take a lot of people doing a lot of work, everything from, a dollar contribution here and a dollar contribution there to people getting out there who've never thought about being involved before, but who realize that things are better off than they were under Obama, need to get out and knock on a few doors and tell their neighbors and friends, hey, you may not like everything that somebody says, but look at the results.
I think you got a shot to turn the corner after this past week. I really do. I think a lot of what the Democrats are doing is backfiring. And I get back to, my hashtag mama, make it America miserable again. I really think that's what the Democrats are running on, whether they're saying it or not. And it started with those sour mugs during all the great economic news. And it manifested itself Monday when the stock market was going down, people were losing value in their retirement, and the Democrats were putting on party hats. I mean, do you really want to put those people in charge of your economic future? Congressman, I don't think so. I got to go. John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth. MorganGriffith.house.gov. I'll be right back.